Why don't we go through at a bunch of clips today? Let's start with Sheldon Keefe on William Nylander.
Yeah, it's been like that for a few games now. He's moving his feet. He's been a real difference maker. Obviously, the power play, once again, he's the trigger man and makes good on it. But more importantly to that, he's skating on both sides of the puck, and it's been really good. Obviously, with Austin's absence, you need guys to step up, and he certainly has done that here the last two games. But even going back further than that, he's done a good job here of late.
The unfortunate part for many teams who have a guy that's supposed to be like a Willie Nylander, and that is that he is not your centerpiece. He's not your go-to guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure. Like, he's part of the core, but he's an accessory to your centerpiece.
He's a luxury item.
Every team's had one. Everyone that's won cups has had that third or fourth guy that you cannot do without, but doesn't necessarily get to top billing.
Yeah.
These guys have a tendency to come and go, but because they're so talented, because they can do so many things that others can't, you truly are at the mercy of just waiting for them.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do
Nothing.
with Willie? Yeah.
But wait.
Just go like this and hope in the first round he can give you a whole new line. They're looking at this Kerfoot, Engvall, Willie line. If Willie is skating and driving that line, all of a sudden you have forward depth. But if he's bad, Willie, you kind of don't, because you don't trust Kerfoot and Engvall to get the job done by himself. So there's a lot riding on the shoulders of Nylander to play well.
When he's gone, right?
Well, and isn't that the truth? Why don't we hear from the man himself on how he's got himself going again? Willie.
I actually went and watched, I took 2 games from the first whatever, so and just randomly watched them, and then I saw two in the later half, and just saw the difference in my game plan. Just saw that it was all about skating more and stuff like that. So I put more focus onto that part of my game.
Skating
would have been nice if he checked out a couple of videos maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Like February
and
or something.
His numbers are fantastic, and people will say that he's having a career
32.
year,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But
career high in goals now.
It's sometimes a little tricky sometimes, because if you can just look at the stat sheets and it's like, hey, this guy's averaging a point a game. But they aren't a point a game. Sometimes they're 4 points in one
40
game.
games, yeah.
And then there'll be a stretch of 3 games where he's absolutely invisible.
Yep.
And that's the part that you have to kind of grin and bear, is those pockets of he's unnoticeable.
Yeah.
And he's had a few of those. There was a stretch here where it was the Matthews and Marner. Is this a team that's kind of resembling a one-line team right now? Because there was a long stretch where Tavares and Nylander weren't getting it done, weren't that noticeable, and certainly didn't put up the numbers that you would have thought on a consistent basis.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's a really good point. Go ahead, Sammy.
Well, I was just going to say that you gave credit to Keefe for his in-game stuff last night, not overplaying anybody. I'll give Keefe credit for the line switch up with putting him on the third line with the more defensive guys, putting Mikheyev up with Tavares. It's really seemed to work for both guys to get their seasons headed in the right direction, because before he did that, they were scuffling big time. And I think that was when they switched it, it was at the end of a long stretch of pretty dreary hockey for those two fellas, no?
I would agree with that. Yeah. It is weird. It's funny with Nylander because it's tough to frame it in a way that doesn't sound negative when you're saying, I want more from him, but I want more because he's so good. Like, he's so talented, and being at a point per game for him seems like the floor for me in his career prime to be a point per game guy. There's still so much there. And so when he plays like he does and is playing right now, it's night and day. It's so different. It's funny, if you go through the Leafs plus minus on the year, Marner and Matthews are plus 20. Obviously, Bunting's up there too. Kerfoot and Engvall plus 20, plus 16 for Mikheyev. Willie's minus 11. So that speaks to, even though he's a point per game guy, there's been some long stretches of play for him where it hasn't been great. So glad to see he found a way to take a look, find his game. Hopefully it carries on into the postseason.
Historically, there's always been guys like this in any era where you are so naturally gifted that it's just a foregone conclusion that every time you step on the ice, that this talent will just be there and take you to a level that few can compete with.
Yeah.
And I think he falls into that category. I really do. There's some nights when he just thinks that he's so talented that it'll just naturally fit in and happen. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
And the question is internally, is that a tug of war with him? Or is it one of those where I'm just not feeling it? I hope I'll be better tomorrow night.
I think he probably judges himself versus other players in the league, average players, instead of judges himself against the best players in the league. Like, I think he looks around and goes, I'm doing better than, I'm blowing Kapanen's numbers out of the water. Look at look at this guy. I'm better than this guy over here. And then instead of looking at, Mitch Marner and saying, how do I try to keep up with the best, I don't know.
If he's not Pasternak from a talent point of view, how close is he?
I think from an offensive talent point of view, he is Pasternak.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't see a ton of difference when it comes to the skating, the shooting, the ability to protect a puck at times. I think Pasternak's just got a little bit or a lot more gumption and FU in his game.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I totally agree with you.
But
Hey,
I
Willie
wish
was on the front line of a scrum, boys. He's got some FU.
Did that happen? Was I looking at my phone?
Yeah.
Must have missed that part.
Can we get a few more sample sizes, please?
I'm gonna get a
But he should
watch
be
back on that.
He should be. I think when he's not watching his own film, I think he should be watching Pasternak's videos.
Interesting, yeah. And what's so funny is it's so not hard to watch video, let alone other players' video, your own now in the NHL. You don't sit there through a 60-minute hockey game fast forwarding through commercials like the old days. Like, someone brings you all your shifts. Here's your 5-on-5 shifts trimmed to when you're around the puck. You can watch your whole game in 14 minutes and be out the door, So I don't think watching a few hockey games is much of an ask. Good for him. Glad he's doing the work. Let's be careful and giving him too much credit.
Do you expect that line to stick for game one?
Yeah, well, if game one's at home and they get last change, I think you may see him back with Tavares in some capacity. I think they don't mind the idea of having another line that they can get out there, match up against some weaker line. I think you'll see the line from last night, Kerfoot, Engvall, and him, when they're looking to get away from matchups and create a stronger third line. I just know that they're looking for options, right? We're 5 games away now, trying to get a sense for what's out there for this team, who works with who. I like that line. Look good to me.